loves, welcome back. My name is Lauren and I'll be your host on today's episode of reviewing and talking about Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. So yes, the book in question today is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I just recently finished this about a few days ago and I absolutely loved it. I cried. I gave it 5 stars. I would highly recommend it if you're looking for a summer read. The world building and the characters and the whole like coming of age story, but also like kind of murder mystery was like so good. It was just very relaxing to read. It was very interesting to read. It was entertaining. It was gripping. It was sad. It was like heartwarming. It's a very good overall book. But yeah, so this video I'm basically going to be talking about the book and what I loved about it, the characters, the plot, the vibes, the message. We're going to talk about all of it. So if you have not read this book but you want to in the future, come back and watch this video when you're done. But if you have read it and you want to talk about it, here's the video for you. If you haven't read it but you don't mind being spoiled, you can also watch, you know, it's fine. But yeah, before I get started, I will give a quick brief synopsis about what this book is about. Basically, this book is set in the marsh coastland swamp area of North Carolina, which I was actually super excited about because I myself am from North Carolina. I have not like grown up in a marsh or a swamp. This girl, Kaya, is our main character and it kind of follows her life throughout her different ages. So it starts when she's really young. She has a lot of family problems. She ends up having to raise herself, which is really hard to go through. She's very young. She doesn't know how to read. She has to like make her own money. She has to live with nature, but she really embraces it. And really this whole story is about kind of her developing over the years, teaching herself, being independent, but also like these friendships that she makes along the way, people who help her, people who hurt her. And there's also, at the same time, at the beginning of the book, we are told that this person in town has been killed. They don't say murdered because it's kind of like a mystery about like what really happened to this person. But at the beginning of the book, we find this dead body. These 2 boys report it to the police and the whole book kind of flips back and forth between the 2 time periods. So the body was found in 1969 and the book starts in about like 1950 when Kaya was like very young. So the whole book is like kind of leading up to this point of them trying to solve this case, but also Kaya growing up and all of that stuff. So it's very interesting the way that it was like structured. The case itself is interesting. The characters in the town are interesting. We're not going to get into, I guess, more of the more spoily section of this video. So if you do want to read this on your own time, feel free to click off now, but I will welcome you back later. But yeah, so first we're going to talk about the vibes. Like I said, it's set in North Carolina, but it's also in like 1950s to about 1970s. So there's segregation, there's racism, and it's really just like interesting to see the dynamics of the town. For example, there's this like diner where even women aren't allowed to eat at it. Like it's that kind of like time period and that kind of town. There's also a town for colored people, but you know, even through all of that, this marsh girl, Kaya, she's like white and she still has people judging her because she lives in the marsh. I think the marsh was like very well depicted. Like I said, I've never been to a marsh or a swamp. I don't even think I really know what one looks like. I just kind of imagined it as being like this place right here with like a kind of murky area of water, but also a bunch of greenery and like beach around it that's kind of like swampy. So yeah, it's set in this marsh and I really enjoyed the like nature world building. There's so much description of the marsh, the water, the sea, the birds, the shells, the like wildlife, the nature, but it's also very like biology and ecology heavy. Like a main focus in this book is like the species and the feathers and the different type of like collectibles that can be found in the marsh. And I personally suck at biology and any like ecology, environmental science type of subject, but it was still interesting to read about and it was really cool to see how Kaya like had that passion for that, which made sense though because she grew up in the marsh. But it was just really interesting to see her take where she grew up and what she learned from that area and like put it into a passion that she can like make money from. You know, I was so proud of her when she like finally wrote that book or like submitted the pages of like the stuff that she had collected, because I don't know, I just thought it was very like heartwarming that she finally had a place to like speak in society as like something that she knew about and had a way to like represent herself and like this is who I am kind of. And I really liked that. There's a lot of like boating, which I was surprised by. I thought it was interesting that like her main form of transportation was like a boat. I don't know that much about boats, but it made sense to me when I was reading it, so I was like, okay. And the town is, and the people in the town specifically, I think are very specific type of people. You know, you have the fishermen, you have the stuck-up lady who's like the church lady, and her family and her daughter is is like the most innocent fucking girl in town, but like really isn't. You have the like nosy cashier lady. You have the colored salesman who gives her gas. Jumpin and Mabel, I fucking loved them in this book. I will talk about the characters later, but I just want to say, like, out of everyone in that town, they are my favorite people. And I think that just again says a lot about the message of this book, that your favorite people end up being the colored people in a society of like lots of prejudice and racism. So let's talk about the characters. Kaya is this wonderful girl. I think sometimes it's really hard to write a main character that is like very independent. I think sometimes they can come off as like arrogant or like emotionally like obnoxious, if that makes sense. Like I think sometimes very independent characters who have to like grow up on their own and like really like make their living themselves sometimes can be very arrogant and kind of be like standoffish to other people. But I really liked how Kaya was just kind of like using what she knew about nature and what she knew about like animals and like how we as a species evolve to like use that to kind of be the roadmap for how she developed friendships with other people. I really enjoyed especially the earlier scenes with her trying to get to know Tate and trying to understand like what she was really doing with him. I really enjoyed how she would like compare her relationship with people to like how animals like mate in the wild and like how birds stay flocked together, all of that kind of stuff. Teach herself how to be a human, if that makes sense. I felt really bad for her. You know, her family is fucked up. The opening scene in this book is her watching her mother walk down the driveway and like basically never come back. And that was just so disheartening, like especially as a young girl. I think she was like 4, watching her mom leave and then not come back and like continuing to wait for her and just like continuing to think of her mom in the ways that she existed in the house before she left. But then also at the same time being stuck in the shack with her like abusive father who is like an alcoholic and like doesn't care or is like very bipolar in his emotions. I think that that is very scarring, and I couldn't imagine like the fear that she was feeling. I mean, I read it perfectly and I think that it was very well executed because I even felt scared for her at some points, because it's like you don't know what's gonna happen, you don't know if he's gonna hit you, you don't know if he's gonna be drunk that day, like you don't know those things. I think it was really well done how it was written and how her father was portrayed. With that being said though, I absolutely hated all of her siblings because they left her. I don't know why, like, I don't know, this is just my mindset. Like for example, why didn't her mother just take her with her? I don't know, it's just very hard for me to imagine leaving a very young child in an environment that I don't know if they're necessarily gonna survive in. Like it's kind of sketchy. I don't know why they left her, but I think that's part of the book. I think part of you is supposed to like question why they left her. Kind of on the same boat with her. You're kind of thinking the same thoughts that she's thinking, like why did they leave me? Why didn't they come back? Why didn't anyone write to me? Why didn't anyone, you know, try to reach out, try to save me? Decent point that was made in the entire writing of this book is like being in Kai's head and understanding how she reacts to things based off of how she grew up and the things that happened to her when she was younger. For example, Jody teaching her how to like hide from literally everyone kind of affected her like really heavily. She hides a lot in this book. Anytime she hears anyone coming, she like runs to the bushes. It's heavily influenced on how she was raised and how she feels comfortable and how she survives. I still loved Kai as a character though, and I think she still does have this like mysterious element to her that I did enjoy because, you know, at the same time we know that Chase Andrews was murdered by someone. They, you know, they don't say that it's a murder, but like the whole time you're kind of assuming that like someone murdered him because like how else could he have just like fallen from the tower? And the whole time I didn't really think that Kaya did it. I was like, there's no way, there's no real reason for her to, unless he was literally trying to like make a pass at her again. Really was not expecting it when the last line was that scene of Tate going through her things and she had that poem about the firefly, and I was like, oh, she actually did it. Kind of give props to her. It's funny, you read this whole novel about her journey through life and growing up. I mean, I saw the hints in the writing. I think that there were a lot of opportunities where she did match the profile of someone who could kill someone. Like, you know, she constantly is like hunting and not hunting and gathering, but like fishing and gathering. Like she has a lot of muscle. She carries things herself. She's been like independent her whole life. I had no doubt that she had the strength to kill him, but just again the logistics of it, the fact that like she was in Greenville, but also like I don't know, they just really painted it to be like you thought she was innocent, and then she did do it. So I don't know how I feel about that. I'm kind of proud of her, honestly, which I think is a weird reaction to have to the end of a murder mystery. I really liked that you go through this whole journey with her and kind of build this like trust for her and this like, you know, affection for her, and then all of a sudden like you realize that she did actually do it, but you don't feel bad about it because it's like she was just protecting herself and like living by her own instinct, which I don't know, take that as you will. Maybe it's a pro, maybe it's a con, but I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Let's talk about Tate. I love Tate. Tate is like my favorite guy in this book, aside from Jumpin. I think Tate, just the perfect guy. I was so sad when she died first, because I think finally we kind of get to see Tate's like emotional side. You know, he's been caring for her this whole time, basically since she was younger, and at first I was a little cautious of their relationship because I was like, she's literally 15 and he's like 19. But at the same time, I didn't really have any like bad doubts about him though, because I could still see that like as a character, he had pure intentions. He didn't want to go too far with her. He taught her how to read, which was like, oh, really hit me in the heart. He taught her how to read. He would bring her textbooks. He would like, you know, just like really try to make her the best person that she could be. He encouraged her to publish those like pages about her collectibles in the marsh. Like, he was really just there for her the entire time. And then at the end, Jody comes back with those like paintings that his mom had painted of them. Kaya knew Tate when she was like even younger. I think that whole cycle of them just like knowing each other from like being children to being adults and like living through that was really, really, really well done. I loved it. At the same time though, I was very heartbroken when he did leave her to go to university. I got it. Like, he wanted to be a researcher. He wanted to be a biologist. He needed to go to college. He got in. He had a research opportunity. Like, he was like doing his thing. And at the same time, I think if I was in the same situation, I would also have the same kind of thoughts. Like, I want to pursue my own dreams and like do my own education, but I can't just like stay in the past with this person if that's like not the same path that we're gonna go down. So I understood his conflict, but at the same time, it really sucks that he like didn't tell her that at all, you know? And I don't think he realized how much that hurt her, because again, we know that Kaya has this issue with like abandonment, people not saying goodbye to her, people just leaving and not saying anything, and Tate did the exact same thing to her. And so I really understood why she wouldn't forgive him, because it's like, why did you do that? Kind of hurt a little bit. Still respected that he came back, because I think that you can go through periods in your life where you think that, you know, some path isn't right for you or you want to pursue something else, but then eventually you'll come full circle and realize that like what was right for you. He never forgot about her. He always missed her. He wanted to come back. He wanted to apologize. And I think just that want inside of him was really something that like showed his true character and showed that he actually did care about her. And I was really a little upset when she started dating Chase Andrews, because I think from the beginning Chase was depicted as someone that's just a fuckboy. He is a fuckboy. He's a football player. He has all these like snobby friends. His parents are like snobby and judgmental. And he's just like not a person who would like seek out Kaya and want to date her. You know, the minute he was like, do you want to go on a picnic with me? Just out of nowhere. I'm like, why? What are your intentions here? And I kind of felt bad that Kaya didn't really pick up on that until he was trying to sleep with her. But again, I think that's an actually really accurate depiction of someone who doesn't know a lot about teenagers and dating that early. Like, she has grown up in a marsh. She hasn't gone to school. She hasn't been around people her age that much. There were a bunch of like animal examples of how males kind of have to like overcompensate for their terrible qualities to try to trap women into like mating with them. Like, I really enjoyed that aspect of the book, because I think, again, it was very accurate. Men can kind of suck sometimes. She kind of needed to like fall in love with someone awful to kind of realize that like Tate had real intentions. Chase Andrews can go suck it. Like, I hated him. I'm glad he's dead. Let's talk about Jumpin and Mabel, my favorite people in this book. Jumpin and Mabel are this African-American couple. Kaya has been struggling her whole life, right? And she had to, from a very young age, figure out how to make money, how to like get herself dinner, how to feed herself, how to take care of herself. That like from the start, she would boat down to Jumpin's dock, get gas from him, and also like try to give him like mussels or like smoked fish or clams to try to make money on her own. And she would get up super early just to like beat the crowd so that she could get the money. And I think that really early like perseverance and like really early hard working of her kind of got Jumpin's attention, you know? He was like, who is this little girl who like doesn't really have parents right now? Like, why is she always coming and getting gas? I really enjoyed how this book kind of turned her and Jumpin's relationship into like a father-daughter kind of relationship. And I think that it just says so much that like the most helpful people in this book were the people who were always being judged against. They're colored. Like, she's not really supposed to be like super good friends with them, you know? She's not supposed to walk into Color Town and like ask for Mabel. Like, she's not supposed to like be super close with them. And they were the people that offered her the most support. Like, I 100% love them. I love Mabel. I love that Mabel was kind of a mother figure in her life to give her her first bra and talk to her about her period and like give her clothes. Like, I respect them so much, and I absolutely, that's like where I started crying, was when Jumpin died, because it was the one person who was really there for her the entire time, wasn't gonna rat on her, wasn't gonna tell the social services that like she didn't really have parents, continued to help her, continued to give her gas, continued to, you know, lie to her that people were buying the smoked fish just to like still help her. Just like the most like, I could cry about it right now if I kept talking about it. I still respect them so much as characters. Books that I give 5 stars are really books that stay with you for a long time. I think I will never forget Jumpin and Mabel. Like, they are my favorite people. So finally, I think we should talk about the message. I think I've talked a lot about, you know, the different aspects of this book and the relationships and whatever. I think mostly the one thing that I enjoyed probably the most in this book was the whole thing of independence. I think it's really sad that, of course, you know, Kaya had to grow up, you know, without a mom, without a dad, without her siblings, like literally just on her own. But at the same time, that made her a very independent person and someone who could live on her own and like not need someone else. Personally, I'm a very independent person too, and I think I related to that a lot, because it's like I understood where she was coming from, but also at the same time there was a really heavy aspect of that loneliness. She really only had Tate, and then he left, chasing Chase to get that attention and to feel like she was like wanted or had a friend. Like, a very real message. Like, sometimes independence can have that aspect of loneliness. While it's sometimes a good thing to be independent, sometimes it's a bad thing, because it's like you have no one to lean on if you do need help, and you have no one to talk to if you do get into a situation like that. Like, you need people in your life, and I think that that was a really good message. You know, sitting in that courtroom, she had Jody and Tate and Jumpin and Mabel and Tate's dad all sitting behind her and just supporting her no matter what the outcome was, and they didn't care that she was the Marsh girl. And also, I think just the aspect of the town, there's a lot of prejudice and like judgment and how we perceive other people and how we judge them for what we hear about them or what we assume comes with their life from where they live. Because like I said, she's white, but she still gets judged by like everyone because she lives out in the middle of nowhere in a marsh, and you know, she never went to school, she didn't have shoes. Like, people would always judge her based off of like her class, basically. And lastly, I think obviously support from others, the relationships and friendships in this book and who helped her and hurt her was so well done, so deep, so layered, and I really felt connected within the story and the plot with the characters. And when she was hurting, I was hurting. When she was happy, I was happy, you know? Like, it's that kind of book where it tugs at your heartstrings because you want her to have a happy life. So overall, again, I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I think that Kaya is an amazing main character. You know, she has her own passions. She is smart in her own way. She taught herself how to read with Tate. She went and did her thing, you know? So yeah, I'm sorry if this video was long. Side note, love how floppy this book is. Like, it's the perfect level of flop. It just like is perfect. So yeah, if you have not read this book, I highly recommend it. It's super just well done. Comment down below what your thoughts are in this book if you've read it. I would love to hear your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What did you love about it? What did you hate about it? And make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you're new here, I am a new booktuber, and I would love to do more book talks in the future about other books that I'm reading. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next time, and yeah, bye!